the Honourable Minister, Your Excellencies, Ma'am and committee members of the Bengal Chamber, distinguished guests, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure and privilege to be integral part of this interesting and exciting evening. I should compliment the Bengal Chamber. Since yesterday morning, it has been a terrific experience for me to realize how serious the business community here in building this partnership between the Gulf and the opportunities available in the Gulf, how we can promote the bilateral trade, investment banking and finance. It's my pleasure and privilege to showcase the bigger picture. I was listening carefully to Ambarish, Mr. Dasgupta's excellent macro view of the global economy. It's important for me to clarify certain facts in global economics. And again, that's the profound interrogations I've had since yesterday morning. The press has been prolific in asking me questions. Some of the questions I think the Minister should also know how the media is quite intense to know what sort of opportunities exist in the Gulf. And the questions was wide-ranging. What is happening in the global economy? That was the first questions. Most of the answers were given by Mr. Dasgupta. Is the global economy is recovering? That's the next question. And again, advanced economies versus emerging economies. And again, how India is faring in relative terms. It's very vital for us to see through India in relative context than in isolation. We live in an interconnected, interdependent world. How is the Middle East economies are performing with the price in oil reflecting? And what sort of geopolitical tension prevails in the Middle East? What does it mean to business advantage or disadvantage? Why you are in Bengal? This question, in fact, disturbed even Mr. Dasgupta. But the inner meaning behind this question is very profound, I should say in positive terms. And why we are here today, and what sort of opportunities exist in the Gulf states. How do we promote the bilateral opportunities in terms of small and medium-sized entrepreneurs? How do we promote the bilateral opportunities in terms of investments? How do we promote these government initiatives in terms of urban development? Today morning I had intense discussions on the giant lead which we are making. What sort of debt or equity participation can come to the Gulf? What sort of urban planning, including analytic city, and how the Gulf states can partake in the overall economic momentum to build this state? And how do we promote between Bengal and the Gulf states internal trade, investments, banking and finance? These are the questions I am going to answer, Minister, in the next 30 minutes. We live in a changing world. The world is changing on account of globalization. The world is changing on account of re-regulation and technology and consumerism. Even after 6 years, we have seen the deflation in the sustainability. Eradication of extreme poverty, gender equality, environmental sustainability are all important issues we need to understand. That's precisely the reason G7 has become G8. G8 has become G20 today. India is formidable in terms of global governance, whether it is IMF or World Bank or Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank or Asian Development Bank. And yesterday, you must have seen in Russia, BRICS are coming together in building this BRICS bank headed by an Indian again. Of course, it's going to be based in China. Extraordinary scene of Indian eminence in global matters evolving. We should be proud to be an Indian. India is a defining moment. We have to understand its dynamics. India should be relatively looked at not in isolation because we live in an interconnected, interdependent world. What happening in one part of the world resonates and impacts the world, whether it's monetary policy or fiscal policy. That is the imperative for us to realize. Then we will interpret the bigger context of changing dynamics. Greece was answered. Look at the economy in terms of Europe. The monetary policy is centralized, the fiscal policy is decentralized. It means essentially this is design error. There's a birth, design and deformity in substance. That is why we are seeing austerity and value creation are mutually exclusive, and we are facing a problem in terms of sustainable Europe. A large Europe, as defined by the Maastricht criteria, is not in shape. What does it mean in terms of global prospects? We need to understand still. It has got interconnectivity, interdependency, and it has got contagion impact in the rest of the world. However material, depending upon your bilateral partnership. America, even after 6 years printing money, improving the liquidity crisis moved into a funding crisis, funding us into a solvency and sovereign issue today. Trillions of dollars have been pumped. Can America say America has got sustainable performance? The answer is no. Even as good as last quarter, you have deflation in the economics, negative growth. Can they inflate the economy 2% as they mentioned? Can they? Is purchasing power parity is improving as they desire? The answer is no. So sustainability in terms of economics, even American cannot say with firm belief that they can raise the interest rate by September or December. That's the global economy. In the midst, we have seen emerging markets are struggling. A couple of days before, Chinese capital market has crashed. Trillions of dollars have been eradicated from the overall market capitalization. That clearly shows how vulnerable the world is all about. Again, Abenomics was printed only to improve the money supply and weaken the currency to have more exports in terms of Japanese economy. Again, they only pulled out of the recession, the Japanese economy. They have not fixed the sustainable development. In the midst, India is formidable. Let's understand its dynamics. I am a prediction. Spring meetings, as mentioned by Dr. that clearly shows India is the fastest growing economy, 7.5%. In relative terms, we have to recognize India is the economy for this century. Demographic dividend, younger population, consuming public, educated population. Over 55% of the population is young, less than 30. Our social security commitments are minimum compared to the rest of the aged economies, including China. A functional democracy is trying to articulate solutions which are responsive. Some of the policy measures which have been taken in this country has been telling for us to realize market liberalization is name of the game. Some of the initiatives taken in terms of foreign direct investments are important for us to recognize we are trying to be competitive in global terms. That's what we need to understand. These initiatives are going to have medium and long-term impact in terms of foreign exchange as well as foreign direct inward investments and also remittance. So you have an extraordinary set of opportunities in this century for India. Let's be proud to be an Indian. In relative terms, we have to look at it not in isolation. That's my message. In the midst, Gulf states. Gulf states are $1.43 trillion economy. 6 states put together. Oman, United Arab Emirates, which includes Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, Ras Al Khaimah, and whatnot. And again, you have Qatar. Qatar itself is an extraordinary country of substance and substantial compliance. And you have Bahrain, you have in it, again, Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. The 1.243 trillion, if you split it, it is 650 billion is Saudi Arabia. 363 billion, take the oil as $60, mind you, is United Arab Emirates. Nearly 200 billion, 198 billion is Qatar. 137 billion is Kuwait. 62 billion is Oman. 31 billion is Oman, rather Bahrain. Sum it up, it is 1.45 trillion. If you look at the bigger picture, in spite of oil getting deflected, it's going to run in current account surplus. This is going to run not less than 40 billion as a current account surplus. Money is not there in America. Money is not there in the UK. Money is not there in Australia. Money is there in the Gulf, where you have proximity and human capital investment. There are 7 million non-resident Indians are in the Gulf states. Let us recognize this. These countries are riding in the wings to invest in India. His Highness, the Emir of Qatar was here in March. I had the privilege of being with him. He has made a commitment of $5 billion and Qatar Investment Authority has set up an office. There is a bilateral team has been set up to see what sort of projects they can invest to start with. So definitely there is a huge opportunity which we need to recognize. That is precisely the reason Bengal Chamber has invited me, and it's my privilege. I could interact the last 2 days, and we will continue the partnership to promote the bilateral values. Let's look at in details the opportunities in substance. While the financial market has been a gambling ground, I'm saying it with a purpose. It's a gambling ground. When you start printing money, you weaken the currency. That you are not fixed the sustainability in substance. That is why, if you look at the bigger reflection, trade is an impact. Currency war creates a trade war. If you weaken the currency, that it will improve the trade. That's what Japan has done. That's what many of the other countries have done. Monetary policy is not going to fix unless fiscal prudence comes in substance. Fiscal and monetary policy proven to be in a sustainable form, and the macroeconomic fundamentals are strong in the Gulf economy alone. There's no other country, no bloc in the world, even taking at $60, can generate sustainable economics. The countries are running in huge investable surplus. In global terms, 6.6 trillion is the sovereign funds. 2.7 trillion comes out of the Gulf economics. Over 14 years, oil price costing over $100. Today, oil is costing around 53 when it comes to US crude and 58 when it comes to Brent. It doesn't mean demand and supply are the only factors. It is again the currency. When the dollar is weak, you hedge the risk by buying commodity futures. Today, there is no oil futures. It's a falling knife. Nobody is catching it. So we live in a world which is administered when it comes to financial policy makeup, whether monetary or fiscal. That is artificial. So when it comes to alignment, building the partnership, it's vital for India to sustain the overall economics in terms of macroeconomic fundamentals. The logical fit is the Gulf. That's my first point. In substance, if you look at the macroeconomics, I've given you the numbers. All these economies are going to have huge non-hydrocarbon growth. As on date, the Gulf economies is growing around 5 to 6%. Middle East and North Africa is around 3.5 to 4.2% in terms of current economic forecast. But the Gulf economies, where 45% of the world oil, 20-25% of the world gas comes from, they are going to generate current account surplus, as I mentioned. They are going to have an aggregate growth for the next 5 to 7 years, not less than 6 to 7%. Countries like Qatar has got a different speed. Non-hydrocarbon is going to grow in a place like Qatar, 9%. That's a huge opportunity. Airport, seaport, roads, right? Huge amount of urban development taking place. The Minister of Urban is here, as far as Bengal is concerned. We have to forge this alliance and bring this partnership. How do we do it? That's the opportunity we need to realize it. If you look at the economic, macroeconomic fundamentals of Qatar, as I mentioned, Qatar is a country of substance. If the underlying economic fundamentals, if you look at it, 15 consecutive years of current account surplus. Investable surplus over 220 billion. Mr. Dasgupta was elucidating the breakdown of the sovereign funds. Single largest sovereign enterprise is, of course, Saudi. They have world 20% of world oil, and even taking into account the overall deflation of oil price, they still can generate investable surplus, mind you. And they have a diversification of structured solutions to invest around the world. There's a change in the market preference. That is the point we have to realize. With the changing dynamics of the world, with the new world order coming together in substance of emerging economies, and opportunity lies with India. India is the least recipient in terms of global FDI. Look at it, telling stories. 1.26 trillion was the global foreign direct investments in 2014. 128 billion has gone to China. 111 billion again to China in the mother homeland, to Hong Kong. So effectively out of 1.26 trillion, 239 billion has gone to China and Hong Kong. Then comes Singapore, 81 billion. 86 billion was United States. Then comes again United Kingdom was 54 billion. Brazil was 63 billion. India got just 35 billion. It is an improvement. It's a marked improvement compared to previous year 2013 by 25%. 28 billion was the earlier number, now 35 billion. That doesn't mean anything. Our capacity is huge in terms of functional democracy, in terms of macroeconomic stability. We have today, not only in GDP growth, we have economic momentum in aggregate terms can go even 9% if you believe in the overall underlying fundamentals. Our fiscal consolidation is taking place. Our current account deficit is reduced. Our market liberalization in defense or healthcare or even real estate, it's happening. Whether it's ordinance or policies in full-scale pronouncement, it's happening. The intention of the central government is clear. Again, the state government have looked at the underlying vision as well as the execution which they are intending. This is where we need to converge countries like Qatar and the Gulf states. Why? Because it's a logical fit. It's a logical fit simply because, number one, it's proximity. As I said, you have, somebody was mentioning to me, it is 2 hours. Bombay to Kolkata is nothing but Bombay to Dubai. Or Kolkata to Qatar is 3.5 to 4 hours. Extraordinary relationship in terms of economic match and proximity. And we know clearly, human capital, India has invested and maximum amount of remittance, not in foreign direct investments, it is through remittance. If 70 billion is inverted remittance from India, over 40% comes from the Gulf states. Over 28 to 30 billion comes from the Gulf states. And we haven't built this alliance. That is precisely, I'm here standing here, that is precisely Bengal Chamber has invited me to look at various project ingredients, various opportunities in terms of business modeling, whether it's trade, whether it is investments, whether it is banking, whether it is finance, how Bengal and the Gulf can come together. That is the very purpose of the mission. How do we do it? To understand the dynamics of these opportunities, we need to go a little deeper. We need a deep dive. The dive comes out of understanding the investments FDI Bengal needs. So Dasgupta was mentioning about the analytics. Today morning, I had a full-scale presentation of the giant wheel, like London, where the Bengal government is articulating a solution here. They said debt equity participation is required. Who can provide you the capital? It's the Gulf states. It could be the Doha Bank, it could be other banks, it could be sovereign investment partnership. Again, the idea is clean and neat. The opportunity is where there is a real resource, that's the Gulf. And in terms of project empowerment, if I look at the techno power company here, they can play a bigger role. Today, very few handful of companies are operating in the Gulf states with multi-trillion in terms of urban development taking place in the Gulf state. I request the minister to come to the Gulf as well. After Eid, perhaps he can plan a trip, we can facilitate in real order with all the Gulf states and a meeting with all the sovereign funds to see how best these projects can be showcased. And we can look at it objectively and we can be a professional intermediary to showcase what Bengal can support in terms of multiple options, in terms of infrastructure investments. What are the various projects? What are the commercial viabilities? What is the payback period? What is the exit strategy? That we need to manifest. Nobody is going to give you a free lunch. Nobody is going to invest without a sufficient return. But we need to showcase this opportunity. And that is my point. In substance, if you look at it, if you look at the aggregate growth, as I mentioned, it is 5 to 6% there. But they also have opportunity to bring in more business channels, whether it's corporate or SMEs. That is prevalent in Bengal. Yesterday, the media was questioning completely on the business opportunities in the Gulf for the corporates, for the SMEs from Bengal. That was a very interesting thing. Today also they grilled it. Why should an SME should come from Bengal there? And I'm again telling in the larger interest of the public, today there's no better place to do business than Gulf. Why SME? You have few big corporates that are operating, LNGs or Shapoorjis or Punch Lloyds or Tatas are operating. The EPC companies can play a bigger role with urban development. As I mentioned, multi-trillion. I can give the project details. This is not a forum to say, but you can correspond. I can give you all the information which I need to disseminate, project specifics, country specifics, that you can explore. But SMEs can play a bigger role. That will create employment opportunities for Bengal. And it is also easy for me to fund SMEs as a Gulf bank. A place like Qatar, 87% is guaranteed, partially guaranteed by the Qatar Development Bank, government. It's unsecured. Generally, the banks are very, very risk averse. They are risk averse simply because they know small and medium-sized entrepreneurs have the ideas, but they don't have a full collateral to execute or borrow money in the larger prospects. That is where we need to understand which economy can support. You need incubation, you need seed capital, you need clearly a credit risk being fixed in real order for banks to give the debt. And that is prevalent in the Gulf states. Majority of the Gulf state today has got national development authorities for small and medium-sized entrepreneurs. Many Indian corporates are coming from the rest of the states. I have seen, I have funded nearly $1 billion in Gulf states in terms of SMEs. And we have very good experience. Places like Qatar, I seriously request the Bengal Chamber to promote small and medium-sized entrepreneurs. Come and have a look at it And we will promote whether you are a new business, again, seed capital is possible, mezzanine financing is possible. Whether it is an existing business, all the more better. And you can bring it. When it comes to the rest of the economics, it goes without saying. The President was mentioning about why Gulf? Why Gulf banks can finance cheaper? Simply because, for example, Qatar is a double-A rated country. Doha Bank is an A+ rated bank. My borrowing cost is cheaper. My prime cost is far cheaper than the Indian banks. You need cost-effective funding for any of your projects. Of course, import of inflation is contained now with oil price going down. In macroeconomic terms, still, we are not cost competitive. How can you become global? How can you manufacture global and be competitive in terms of quality assurance and pricing unless you are cost competitive? It means effective integration of people, process and technology and the financing cost should be cost effective. Which part can give you a sustainable, lower financing cost? It is the Gulf states. Purely because the borrowing cost is cheaper. It's not a free or charity. It is a business advantage for you to realize the cost of funding for a bank, A-rated bank, credit default swap rate is nominal. So my prime cost, whether it is SME, which is 6 to 7% as against 14 to 15% here, it can range depending upon the risk profile up to 9%. But still, it's formidable in terms of savings. When it comes to corporate, again, the prime rates are cheaper. So that's why you should do business in the Gulf. Creating a window, setting up the free zone, paying a flat 10% tax, ensuring cost-effective labor, ensuring cost-effective funding is an opportunity for you to integrate, and the rest of the exports can go through a free trade. Import and exports, you know how easy to do in the Gulf states. That is a model you have to remodel your existing business. That is where you have to realize opportunity exists. In substance, if you look at the overall economic momentum, this year, finance year, all 6 states put together, 307 billion is the fiscal expenditure budgets. How? Another 3 billion has been put in in the Saudi budget. Another 5 billion has been put in as a government, and $1 billion I'm talking about, as a government expenditure in UAE. 63 billion has been put in as a government expenditure in other states. 37 billion was Oman, 31 billion is Qatar, and the rest are all considered. Summing it up, you will have over 300 billion. Government expenditure. These governments are running a huge surplus and they want to spend for healthcare, education, as I mentioned, airport or seaport, a road or rail. And that is where the Bengal corporate as well as the powerhouse and also the small and medium-sized entrepreneurs can look at partake, and that is precisely the reason the President was mentioning. How do we disseminate information? How do we bring this chamber together? How do we work with Qatar Chamber or rest of the Gulf Chamber to showcase what we need to articulate in terms of building this partnership? What sort of reorganization is required in our mindset? That's more important. The opportunities are endless. The global world today is single, shrinking world. It is we to see the opportunity and converge with the realignment of partnership and create opportunities, whether it's trade or investment, banking or finance. With this, I'll conclude. Simply because the minister is here, and he has, it is Ramadan, and he was kind enough to be here. And I invite him to come to Qatar and the rest of the Gulf states. I am going to work with the Bengal Chamber. I have enough information so I can go on in detailed terms, in terms of managerial economics as well as underlying fundamentals and as well as the opportunities which you need to seize, but it's a question of time. And I will conclude with this, and I thank you for the opportunities. Me and Doha Bank is committed to make sure we build this bilateral partnership. As an Indian, I'm a proud Indian. I still carry my Indian passport. This century belongs to India, make no mistakes. Don't underestimate our potential. 1997, our financial crisis we went through. 1969, we nationalized. Public-private partnership has been the norm of India. That is what is today. With the financial crisis, we have realized globally Greece is out of water today. We have seen the economic turbulence. We have an economy which withstood all these pressures. Not only in 1969, our vision was right. 1997 financial crisis we withstood. 2001, when Americans were sanctioned on account of nuclear physics, we withstood. Post-September, we have withstood in terms of financial stability. We withstood the profitability as well as liquidity in 2008 and 2009 when the world was reeling under liquidity crisis. We have capacity to go forward with the demographic dividend. This century belongs to India. This century belongs to India. Make no mistakes. We will build this partnership for the better value, for better prosperity, for human dignity. We will eradicate extreme poverty. We will bring in gender equality. We will build in environment sustainability, including the renewables, Mr. Dasgupta was mentioning. It is an opportunity. 360 days, sunshine, arid zone, extraordinary opportunities. Multi-billion investment is going in photovoltaic. There is a huge carbon neutral city is being built in Abu Dhabi. That is where we have to work together. That is where we can come together, converge to promote bilateral trade, investment, banking and finance. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the opportunity.